During the Tribal Listening Conference that took place March 16th at UTTC, District Chief Judge of North Dakota Ralph Erickson shared his thoughts with attendees regarding the judicial and common law systems on reservations.
There are some things that have been unsaid today that need to be said. And I understand that this is not a time to identify the problems out in Indian country, because we're all familiar with what they are. But we need to state the elephant in the room. You and I are being asked to pick up the pieces of 175 years of failed policy in Indian country, racist policy, oppressive policies, and policies that subjugated indigenous, native peoples. All right? And when we talk about the problems in Indian country, when we talk about economic deprivation, when we talk about educational failure, when we talk about suicide, alcoholism, sex abuse, drug addiction, this is the fruit of a failed policy on the part of the government of the United States. All right? None of us are responsible for those failed policies. None of us are to blame for those failed policies. But it is our duty and our obligation to pick up the pieces and move forward. The solution to our problems does not lie in Washington, with all due respect to the people who are employed by the federal government. It does not lie in Bismarck, with all due respect to the people who are employed by the state government. It lies in our communities. I want to state, I do not doubt the good intentions or the commitments of the federal agencies. I do not doubt the good intentions and the commitment of the state agencies. They have a role to play, because together we can address the problems that confront our communities. But in the end, you know the communities that you live in. You know what the problems are, and the solutions will be found where you live. The other partners in this process can assist, they can aid, they can help, but they cannot solve the problems. Those of you who live in the community will solve these problems, and you have an obligation to do so. That means you have an obligation to sacrifice your personal political loyalties. You have an obligation to sacrifice your personal financial interests, and you need to put, above all else, your communities and your children. We've spoken a lot here about law and order in Indian country. They're not exactly synonymous with each other. A society can be highly ordered and unlawful. Imagine a totalitarian state or a dictatorship. Long on order, long on laws, but short on law. And that's because law reflects a system of justice. It reflects the will of the people as reflected in a judicial system. Judicial systems arise from the society. All right? The structure that you are confronted with in the tribal court system, you may feel has been foisted upon you because it is not in complete compliance or accord with your traditional tribal norms. But the reality of it is this: the common law system is a system that was imposed on a subjugated people. The Angles and Saxons were subjugated by the Normans. They were subjugated before that by the Romans. The form and tradition of the common law courts are Roman in nature, but Anglo-Saxon in law. And the challenge to you as tribal peoples is to look at the structure that you've been given, which is common law in its origin, and is Anglo-American in its origins, and imbue in it the lifeblood of your culture. To build system that functions in your society, to build a tribal court system that understands your way of life. And so you don't need me to come in and tell you that you have to do this or you have to do that. What you need to do is to understand that our system requires of you really a very simple commitment, and that's a commitment to due process.
Spirit Lake Nation Tribal Chairwoman Myra Pearson made this announcement during the conference.
Our elections are coming up at home. And yesterday, I told everyone I wasn't going to do that, but I went ahead and I submitted my name again, and hopefully if I get back to you, I'm here to work with this is one of the important things in my, I guess my political career, but it's something important to me, and I think, I want to see this whole thing get completed.